A while back, you were very open on social media about a health issue that you had. It's actually the reason why I have an Aura ring today,
Oh, wow.
and why I'm repairing my Apple Watch. Like my Apple Watch would be on me, but it's like repair, so I'm at
Yeah.
Fitbit instead.
Nice.
But like I've been taking my health a lot more seriously. Could you talk a little bit about what that issue was, if you don't mind, and what made you decide to open up to your audience and to the world at large about it?
Yeah, I mean, so I got a blood clot, and the actual diagnosis, it happened in my shoulder, and it was something called thoracic outlet syndrome,
Mm,
where there's not enough space between your ribs to let either the artery, the vein, or the nerve passageway. And so mine happened to be the vein. So like that pressure from, unfortunately, a lot of the martial arts stuff that I was doing, like lightsaber and sword training,
yeah.
that rotation kept putting pressure
Mm.
on that. So then that formed the blood clot. And it was weird because it's like all the doctors are like, "You're so young, you're so healthy." I'm like, "Well,
Yeah,
not
no,
I'm
blood clot, we
not that
start
young."
thinking like 60s, you
Well,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
like older people. But what I'd found out through my research and posting about it was that it actually happens to a high percentage of women, women who are pregnant, women, or not necessarily women, anyone who has the ability to get pregnant or is on like birth control and things like that. Like it increases the chances. So mine specifically was anatomical, but just having that happen and doing more research, I was then like the thrombosis advocate for the past year, which was such a random thing. Like I never would have thought that that was something that I would have been, but being able to bring awareness and also learning more about other people and like what procedures they went through and their
Mhm.
experience was super helpful for me as well.
Yeah, and you probably learned a lot about, like, things like just the healthcare system in general, and just, like,
Yeah.
because you're as a super healthy, active, like, person, there's just probably things you just never had to deal with.
Right. I mean, I never went to the hospital. I mean, I would still go to the doctors for like regular checkups and things
Right.
like that, but never had a hospital stay really, I mean, ever, other than getting like my wisdom teeth out, which was like going to the
Yeah.
dentist.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
mean,
I
yeah,
mean, I
me,
was,
dentist, car accidents, that's about it, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so it was like for 5 days, like I was in the hospital, 3 of those was in the ICU, and it was just, I mean, I thankfully did have a very positive experience. Everyone was super helpful.
Yep.
And, but, it's like the medical bills come. I'm grateful that my mother always told me, even if you have no money, you must have health insurance. That is
Yes.
like something that was just
Drilled
ingrained.
into,
Yes.
yeah.
And like, thank God, or I would have owed millions of dollars in medical bills,
Ah, sheesh,
which
yeah.
is wild.
That is wild and
Hmm.
everything like that. I mean, that's why it's very interesting with like creators like you sharing your story. Things we've seen, like Mr. Beast, for example, what he did for people with cataract surgery. You know, I
Right.
actually paid for my mother's cataract
Oh,
surgery. You know,
wow.
thank God for being a creator and being able to financially afford that
Yeah.
stuff. But a lot of people, they can't afford these things when they happen to them. And what we've worked ourselves into a position to where, okay, even in the worst case scenario, we still are human. We will experience, unfortunately, some of these things. We have a way to deal with it, but most people don't have any idea. So the fact that creators like yourself share things that happen to them, or even other people, like with what Jimmy's been doing, I think it's just like interesting that people don't realize what creators have the opportunity to do with their platform that
For
exists
sure.
outside of their content.
Right. Yeah. And it's just bringing that awareness too, because it's like, I mean, I put off going to the hospital for a few days because I had work to do.
Yeah,
And like, that's so crazy to think. And
but that's also a
now,
normal person thing too. Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, well, maybe it'll go away. Like, maybe my arm will feel a little bit better.
yeah,
But then once I went to the urgent care, she looked at it. She was like, you need to get to the emergency room immediately. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I
yeah.
guess this is a thing. And never in my wildest just dreams would I've ever thought that I would have been there for 5 days and it would have been so severe because it like blood clots for anyone that doesn't know it can be very detrimental because it could
Mm.
break off, it could go to your lungs, it could go to your heart, and it could go to your brain,
Cause a
and you could have a
stroke.
stroke.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's really scary. So it's definitely look up the symptoms and just become a little bit more familiar with
Yeah.
it.